So once we started putting some of those things in place, what sort of results did you start to see with the increased confidence and resilience and everything?
Yeah, I think the most notable thing is I'm just much more confident and positive in my day to day now. I mean, I look back at some of the early messages I sent you and the journals that I wrote, and I feel like a very different person now. Again, more self confidence, more direction, more self belief. And that's led to tangible results as well. I mean, as you reminded me, I had a really good performance year last year. It was like 15 times the performance I put up the year before. Um, Again, it's hard for me to celebrate those things because it feels like you do it and you move on. It's on to the next year, and you got to keep it up. But the results have been tangible as well as sort of intangible and more internal.
Kind of feel like I'm your hype man. Like, dude,
Absolutely,
you
absolutely. Somebody
15
has to be.
you 15x'd your previous year in P&L.
Yeah.
It's the best year you've ever had.
Yep. Yeah. And I don't think I would have been able to do that without the confidence that you helped me find and the resilience to believe in myself when there were ups and downs in performance. And I know that that's natural, but it's but it's hard to feel that in the moment unless you've been building that muscle.
All right, so today we've got a client interview with my client Nick. I'm super excited to dive into this one. So, Nick, thanks for jumping on, man.
Hey, thanks, Mario.
All right. So, like we talked about, basically the goal for this is just talk a little bit about your story and some of the results you got from the coaching process. And so, just to kick it off, can you just tell us like who you are, what you do, and where you live?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a portfolio manager for an investment partnership. I've spent my entire career as a public markets investor. Um, I live in Los Angeles, and I think working hard to perform at a high level in my work, and also as we've talked about a lot, I'm a avid athlete and runner as well in my free time.
Yeah. I know that's one of the things we connected on is just having like that athlete identity and that taking that approach into your business and career. So, um, what were some of the things that you were maybe struggling with that made you want to reach out and start the coaching process?
Yeah. So I felt like I'd gotten to a point in my career where I'd been given a really great opportunity. Um, I reached a point where I was working primarily alone. And, as I looked at my performance, I felt like I wasn't really living up to what I was capable of or performing to my standards. And, um, I'd always felt like if you want to perform at an elite level, it's a lot like elite sport where everybody needs a coach, no matter how good they are, and it's as much for the actual sort of specifics of your performance as it is for mindset and confidence and just having somebody in your corner. And I think for me, I was struggling a lot with the natural ups and downs in performance that come with my job, and particularly bouncing back from losses, maintaining my confidence in drawdowns, and I think also just sort of believing that I was still capable of performing at the level that I expected.
Yeah, I think like I've totally been there and I see that a lot with a lot of the guys that I work with where it's like you're in a performance-based profession and that and your income and your results is almost directly tied to your mental state and your
Mhm.
ability to bounce back and especially in trading, it's like you've got to be able to deal with adversity and losses really well.
Yeah.
And so anybody who's listening to this who's maybe like struggling with bouncing back from adversity can definitely relate. So how like was that maybe impacting you then like on a day to day or week to week?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, the performance is really, it's hard to perform when you're not confident. It's hard to, a lot of this job is knowing when to pull the trigger, and there's aspects of trusting your gut, following your instincts. And when you don't trust your instincts, you get in these pretty negative cycles. And I think that was leading me um, to struggle to engage day to day. It felt painful and tough going to work, not knowing where the next loss was going to come from,
Mm.
and that just built on itself.
Yeah, like I remember you saying that because it's like something that you love to do when you're struggling with it, it just doesn't become fun anymore. And then it's like hard to like show up and like put the extra reps in.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks for sharing that. So once we kind of started the process, like, what were some of the most helpful aspects of the process that helped you?
Yeah, I think for me, a big part of it was the frameworks that you introduced me to, and just I felt like you were helping me understand the building blocks of performance and what was going on in my head when I was struggling and how to break some of those negative cycles. I mean, for example, like I'm not really somebody who naturally celebrates wins. It's expected, right? The job is to win. The job is to make money, whatever it is that you're paid to do performance wise. But I think you help me identify them and recognize the importance of celebrating them. Um, introduce me to a lot of habits that are grounding on a day-to-day basis, kind of help me execute, remind me of my wins. Um, I think also in particular the exercise that we've done around working backwards from a future you or future self was really helpful in identifying and orienting toward my goals. Um, and I think also just simply, on a week-to-week basis, having somebody to talk to about the things that I'm struggling with and show up and share the good and the bad is important, right? Particularly when you work alone. And I I knew I could share pretty openly with you. I didn't get any judgment or negativity from you. You were always, brought kind of a helpful can-do lens to it.
Yeah. No, because I think that's one of the biggest things. Like anytime you're struggling with confidence, like one of the first things that you've got to do is like look for the small wins every day. And so many high achievers just don't focus on the wins. You just focus on what's not going well. And so I found that I remember that was one of the key things that we just started to focus on, just like making mental deposits in that
Yeah.
confidence bank account and just watching that climb over time. And so once we started putting some of those things in place, what sort of results did you start to see with the increased confidence and resilience and everything?
Yeah, I think the most notable thing is I'm just much more confident and positive in my day to day now. I mean, I look back at some of the early messages I sent you and the journals that I wrote, and I feel like a very different person now. Again, more self confidence, more direction, more self belief. And that's led to tangible results as well. I mean, as you reminded me, I had a really good performance year last year. It was like 15 times the performance I put up the year before. Um, Again, it's hard for me to celebrate those things because it feels like you do it and you move on. It's on to the next year, and you got to keep it up. But the results have been tangible as well as sort of intangible and more internal.
Kind of feel like I'm your hype man. Like, dude,
Absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
fit
Somebody has to be.
you 15x'd your previous year in P&L.
Yeah.
It's the best year you've ever had.
Yep. Yeah. And I don't think I would have been able to do that without the confidence that you helped me find and the resilience to believe in myself when there were ups and downs in performance. And I know that that's natural, but it's hard to feel that in the moment unless you've been building that muscle.
Yeah. I think I think that's why it's just like really cool even to like recognize this and look back in this interview for you to see how much you've grown, the
Sure.
results that you've gotten, and now even like as you think about like the future and like what's next, what sorts of things like are possible for you now, or like what do you think about is possible now with the confidence and everything?
That's a good question. I mean, you've helped me focus on where I want to be 10 years in the future. I want to be um, running a bigger book, performing this way. And I now have more belief that I can actually execute on that, and I know the path to get there, and I've got some of the frameworks to rely on.
Yeah, definitely. I just think that when you have like that self-belief and know that you can get through anything, it just starts to open up all different types of possibilities. So, is there anything else that we haven't talked about yet that you want to mention as something that was either beneficial from the process or just how you've changed as a person from the beginning to where you're at now?
No, I don't want to give away all your secrets. I think for
You could
me, the
share. You
ones
could share
that have been
whatever, man.
most helpful have been, focusing on again working backward, know
Yeah,
to identify the path to where you want to be 10 years from now, and really believing, really visualizing in detail what that looks like, and the clarity that that gave me on how I want to get there has been really big. Um, I think the importance of focusing on wins I've mentioned a couple of times, even
yeah,
just the ability to identify a healthy versus an unhealthy mindset, and know um, when I'm struggling with mindset, and how to ground myself back to what a healthy mindset looks like for me. But ultimately, it just sort of reinforced for me that how much um, somebody who strives to be an elite performer really does need coaching and need help. And I think a lot of top performers, particularly entrepreneurs, work alone. They don't have that necessarily professional mentor, and you have to you have to go out and look for that.
yeah. I think it's a good point because it's almost like the elite performers need it even more because you have more potential and you're almost like higher up and there's fewer people that can support you. So
Yeah,
it's almost like in order to like really get to where you want to be, you actually need it more. And
yeah.
everybody needs that.
You're trying to do things that haven't been done before. I mean, look at any elite athlete, any guy who's trying to win a Olympic gold, or break a record. Like, they've got a coach. Many of them have a sports psychologist, mindset coach. Like, that's hugely important when you're trying to do things that there isn't a set path for.
Yeah, I think that's one thing you and I always just aligned on. It's like as a trader, as an entrepreneur, as a hedge fund manager, you're like a professional athlete. And
Hmm.
professional athletes have coaches, they train, they do everything that they can, even in terms of recovery. Because like that was some things, there were some things there that we worked on too, is like
Yeah.
having an ideal day, managing your energy, making sure you're recovered. So I think that's awesome. So yeah, any pieces of advice for somebody who is kind of at the beginning, maybe feeling that the same way that you did at the beginning, unsure of what the next step is? Like, what would you say to somebody who's kind of at the beginning?
Yeah, the main thing, I would say is to seek out that help. That going it alone doesn't usually work, doesn't often work. Um, yeah, that's a big part of it. I think bringing an outside perspective is really important. Yeah, I think that there's also sort of what we were just talking about, but you got to remember, you're not going to win every game, you're not going to win every race, and building the resilience to deal with failure, whatever that looks like for you, is really important, and that's a muscle, and it takes practicing, and it takes visualizing ahead of time.
100%. Yeah. Like it does like really come down to not just confidence it really comes down more so to resilience because, like
Mhm.
you said, when you're trying to do something that's never been done before or break through to a new level you've never done before, you may not be 100% confident that you can actually achieve it. You need enough confidence, but you also need the resilience to know that no matter what happens, whatever setback comes, you can bounce back and you can move forward. So I'm just really proud of you, man. I just think it's so cool to just reflect on where you were at the beginning to where you're at now, like a massive breakthrough year. The thing that really stands out about you is like you really were consistent. You really took the frameworks and the strategies and like applied it just like you do as a marathoner. And I
Yeah.
think that's why you got such good results is because you put the work in, you were consistent every single day, and that just compounded over time. And so I just want to say thank you for letting me be a part of it, and congrats on such an epic year.
Thank you. Thank you for all the help.
Yeah. So for anybody who's listening to this, if you're resonating with that, like wanting more confidence, wanting to bounce back from losses in a stronger way, if you need some more structure, send me a DM on Instagram or click on the link below and book a call, and I can help you level up in 2025. So, Nick, thanks again, man.
Sure thing. Happy to.